Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Galarian Smite League. I am Cabbage, joined here on the cast by East and DeCaptain working the production side of things. Today, we have the Losers Round 2 set between Chinkai's and Goosedra. And East, both of these teams now sitting in the Losers bracket. Goosedra fresh off a win over in Losers Round 1. Chinkai's won their Round 1 over in Winners, but then dropped out in the quarterfinals. Both teams sitting now at 1-1, hoping to at least go even as this tournament bracket does continue on. But seeing as both these teams are on elimination point here, I know you are a captain, veteran of this league. Are there any picks that come to mind, any specific players, any team comps that you think these teams are going to pull out to really make sure that they can hold on to their tournament life?
I think Goosedra will mainly be looking to play through their two main players, which I would say is Lockie and Kami, who I assume is going to play mid today. We will see. They're the main two players, I think, for Goosedra, and if they can actually get to the stage of the game where those two do enough damage, then I think Goosedra will be fine. Whereas King Kai's on the opposite end will be looking to shut those two down. So I expect to see most of the play around mid and the duo lane, rather than solo. I'd expect solo to be pretty sleeper with your normal Wukong, Yorm picks, things like that.
And East, I'm not super familiar with the standings here as we go into picks and bans, but coming into this playoffs phase, in terms of the seedings, how things stood at the very beginning, were Shinkai's and Goosedra relatively even, or was one team seated far above the other?
King Kai's, I think, were second or third. They were one of those two, either second or third. Goosedra were fifth or sixth, so King Kai's definitely the favourites. And then Kins made a couple of transfers in the transfer window, which I think most people would argue has strengthened their team. They brought in Ace K and Big Joe for two of the other players that they transferred out. It's interesting to see they've got Ginger Archer playing mid tonight instead of Maritek. Maritek being probably the best mid laner this season, so that'll definitely hurt not having Maritek playing.
And judging based off the seeding that you were talking about earlier, Chinkai's being the second seed, not really expected to be in losers this early. So I guess you have to think that for Goosedra, this is both an unfortunate outcome, but also possibly an opportunity to knock out one of the big players from this bracket.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great result if they can get a win, to be fair, because I think the next round is going to be easier than this one. So.
And East, as the bans roll through here, we see a lot come through, but one of the bans that does not go through is a ban on the Freya, which is going to get picked up in the first slot here for Chinkai's. And East, I am a player over in the North American region, and so I'm not as familiar with the meta over in Europe across the pond, but I have heard some rumblings just about how strong this Freya pick is. Over in America, we do think it's a very solid pick, but it seems like you guys really put some heavy emphasis on getting that pick at least banned or locked in if you can.
Yeah, it's very strong right now with Bumbers as the start going into that Bumber Spear late game. It's safe with the ult, with the banish, safer than most people think it is, and it just does so much damage as always Freya does, so a good strong pick for sure.
And then continuing to look at the duo lane, we see the On Her being locked in by Goosedra. I guess I want to poke and prod a little bit more at how this duo lane is going to look, because On Her tends to be fairly aggressive, and do you think that On Her has some sort of special matchup here into Freya? I'm not super familiar with how that lane goes.
Nothing too much. I would say Freya's ult's
It's
down,
time
then
to
the
turn
On Her
this
should
battle
kill the Freya,
in
but,
our favor.
It's one of those, right, where if the ult's up, then Freya just lives. I think Freya's just going to look to get to late game rather than taking any trades, to be honest.
Sure thing. Sun Wukong and Jormungandr both locked in for the solo lane, and Athena over in support on the side of the Chinkai's. Khepri being hovered here by Goosedra, and Khepri, a pick that I really haven't seen a whole lot of in the Season of Souls, even just since the new map was introduced. Do you think there's some specific matchup that they're going for here as this Khepri does get locked in, or do you think it might just be a comfort pick for the support of Goosedra?
Probably a comfort pick, but I absolutely despise it. I can't lie. I'm one of those that absolutely hates Khepri. I think Khepri is so bad at the moment as well. Just the fact that the god is absolutely massive, and like all the jungle corridors are quite thin, so it's really easy to body block and hit abilities and autos on the Khepri. I just think it's not a good pick personally, but we will see.
So a possible comfort pick coming out here from Goosedra, or maybe something in mind that has slipped under our nose. Thanatos being banned out likely as a way to make sure that that Khepri res is able to go through, taking the executes off the field. Quite a big deal, as Serket and a Wheelish both taken off. Large focus on the junglers. Something that isn't banned out yet, though, that I think could be a little scary into a Khepri and has seen some play as of late, would be something like an Ao Kuang. Still have access to that pick should you choose to go it over on the side of Chinkai's, though Goosedra could pick that one up. Do you think that might be where both of these teams are looking?
I think it might be a bit rough to pick out, right? They've got 3 magical already. I mean, it's not terrible, but I probably wouldn't go it. I'd think of probably locking in a physical. I'd probably lock in something like Fenrir, to be honest, if it was myself, and just pick that Khepri on cooldown. But we'll see. I know
Face
that
the
Morton
wrath of a
generally
sorceress
doesn't play Fen as
scorned.
much, so we'll see.
Morgan Le Fay gets locked into the mid lane here of Goosedra. There's a Camazotz now being hovered by the Chinkais. Camazot's a pick that feels like it hasn't, at least as of late, been supremely strong, but has never been bad, and so I don't think I'm super surprised given the amount of strong junglers taken off the field and the need for some physical DPS to see this covered, and it does get locked in here by the Chinkais.
Yeah, it's definitely a comfort pick. It's something Morton's played time and time again and thinks is very, very strong. I don't disagree. I think it is strong. I don't think it's quite as strong as Morton thinks, but yeah. Maybe something he's caught from his idol Leon.
Tiamat is going to be the final god hovered here by the Chinkais to try and round out their draft. Something you had talked about, East, is the sheer amount of magical damage that is existent within those first 3 picks, and locking in a magical mid laner is going to mean that the physical damage is going to be heavily reliant here on Morton out of the jungle. With Marticarus banned, do you think there's anything else here that could really be picked into the mid lane here for the Chinkais, or do you think something like the Tiamat is going to be the best option?
I don't think it's horrendous, because you can just buy tablet, right? And that's a different form of damage. It's true damage. I think, I could be wrong, but I think Glad Shield's physical damage as well. So I don't think it's horrendous. But I'd personally have had something in mind, right? I'd have picked like a physical support, or even pick like a Chiron or a Neath mid or something like that. But I don't know. They're just not the best, are they? It's just a bit of a scuffed draft, but I think it's fine if you. It's fine if you go the tablet build in mid, I think.
Able to get a lot of those yellow numbers, could still just be able to ignore a lot of that magic protection. As Ratatosker is the jungler that does get locked in for Goosedra. And so with both of these drafts being rounded out, I think both teams at least sitting on fairly solid gods for the most part. We did have some questions about that Khepri in the East. Just looking at the different pieces on the teams, I see a Freya, I see a Tiamat. I definitely think that at least the backline of Chinkai's wants this game to go on as long as it possibly can, try to get those picks up and running. Whereas when I look at Goosedra and I see this on her and I see this rat, I expect some early pressure, but the Khepri does not scream like a god who's able to get that rolling to me.
Yeah, I said beforehand that I was expecting Kins to try and shut down the mid and the duo lane, but I don't know that you can really do that with the picks they've gone. Honestly, I think Kins are just going to sit back and wait to see what what Goosedra do. Hope that Goosedra overextends somewhere, because Goosedra with the Rat and the Anhair and Morgan, I guess, will be looking for a bit more early pressure. And Kins will just try and look to punish and overextend.
So possibly a different draft style than we had expected coming into this game one. And I guess, East, I will do the obligatory question of, between these two drafts, which team do you think made out better? Which team do you think has a more solid draft overall? And then do you think that one draft might edge the other out in terms of just the sheer matchup?
I don't like either of them. However, if you forced me to choose one, I would probably say the Team 1 draft, the King Kai's draft, right? They're just a bit, I don't know. I feel like it's much easier to win with that team comp. It requires less execution, less actually playing well, if that makes sense. You can win a team fight without playing it well. There's a lot of things in there that you can't really miss, like Yorm abilities and Tiamat abilities and things like that. So
yeah, this team comp for Chinkai's will hit that point in the game where it just becomes almost an auto win in a lot of these team fights. So very much going to be up to Goosedra to really get ahead as much as possible while they can early on in the game. But East, looking at how we do have 4 magicals on the side of Chinkai's, Morton on this Camazotz going to be the only source of physical damage for that team. Do you think he has what it takes, and do you think this pick has what it takes to really carry that mantle?
he's definitely the carry of their team, right? Everything runs through him. You can see that in his kill participation in the stat sheets. Is most of the kills for King Kai's run through him. I don't think it's the pick if you're going to be only physical, but he is good on the pick, and the pick is good, so it's good here as well, so we'll see.
And the safety that god offers as well, definitely going to help that team out early on in the game. And I guess that is another thing we haven't particularly mentioned yet. Jormungandr, Camazotz, both having ways to get out pretty easily through their ultimate. Freya also benefiting from something along those lines with the Valkyrie's discretion. Over on the side of Goosedra, Sun Wukong, notoriously hard to tack down. Ratatoskr having the global ultimate as well. Khepri with that resurrection. Are you expecting that many kills early on for these two teams?
I wouldn't expect that many. I think Goosedra might look for them, but I think Kins will be fine on getting out, to be fair. But I guess we'll see as we go into the game.
Yes, as we wait for players to be ready on the game, I do also want to just talk about kind of how this these first 6 picks kind of rolled through, because we saw the Freya locked in, the Sun Wukong and the Anhur both picked up second there, and Sun Wukong getting picked up over the Jormungandr. Do you think that there is a bit of a preference there for Goosedra, or do you think that Sun Wukong might just be a bit more solid compared to the Yorm?
I think both picks are fairly equal. I'm not entirely sure, honestly, why Goosedra picked it second, unless they specifically wanted the Wukong for some reason. I think both picks kind of do the same thing. They don't really die, they're decent damage, and stuff like that. I don't really know why you pick it second, to be fair. Surely you just leave it and then pick it up after Kins have picked up the other one second and third, but whatever. I'm not drafting for them, so.
All right, well, we are going to transition right over here into game one between Goosedra and the Chinkais. And just to reiterate, once again, I am Cabbage, joined here on the cast by East, and the wonderful DeCaptain on the production side of things. Coming right here into this first game, I did want to ask you a bit about the duo lane and how this pressure is going to work out, because we have the Athena and the Freya over on the side of Chinkai's, whereas opposing them, we have the Anhur and the Khepri. For Goosedra, I feel like Khepri, not super high pressure, but Freya also tends to struggle early. And so do you think that this is going to be mostly based on play on field here?
I'm not sure, honestly. I think it'll be an interesting lane to watch. It should really be the Kepri, and her pushing, but the Bumba's start on Freya does make the camp clear a
Oh,
lot easier. So we'll see how that goes into the second wave from now on, really.
and East, talk to me a bit about this Bumbas pick, because usually in North America when we run this Freya, we use the conduit gem for that starter item. Bumbas is not something I'm really used to seeing over in this lane. So do you have any particular reasoning behind why that pick is so popular?
Yeah, it's very common in EU really. It's pretty much what everyone goes, I think, on Freya. Because it Freya's a late game god, right? But still has issues late game. The issues are you can't really hit towers that well, and you can't really do like fire giant and objectives that well. And Bumba's spear just cancels that out. That's what the item's for, isn't it? It's pushing objectives, pushing towers, things like that. So it counteracts that. And then is it actually that bad early? Not really. Not on ADC because you've got plenty of camps around you. You've got the floating harpy, you've got your back camps, you've got shield buff, you've got purple buff. You've got plenty of things to actually farm with your jungle starter. And once you've got your Telkines online on Freya anyways, you should just be able to clear waves, so...
So Ace definitely not looking for anything particular early here. They're just going to go for the farm as Kepri takes a lot of damage backing away under the tower. That is another thing that the Freya does offer, is just that sheer damage pressure when you can find those opportunities. And I think that's definitely a good thing for Ace K here. You're playing into something like the On Her. Definitely just saying, look, you're just going to outpressure me anyways. Might as well all in on that late game. But it is just going to depend on whether or not they can make it there and how far behind they fall in the process. Within these first 3 minutes, nothing much happening in the way of kills as blue buff gets stolen over and right here by Morten, already getting active on this Camazotz. Some early pressure from the team that we'd really expected to be putting out more late.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? You've picked Freya Tiamat. You can't really gank those lanes as a camera because you're not really going to have too much pressure. So I guess it's just focusing on solo for now. Get the Yorm ahead. Bit of a mistake from Calvin to be on this side of the jungle whilst all that stuff's up. He's lost speed. He's lost blue. Good start from Morten.
We see the pressure come through in duo, resulting in the pickup of that shield buff. I do want to take another look back over at the builds, because we do have Ginger Archer looking to be starting with a book here, and I think you talked about it earlier, going for that tablet build. Do you think that's what Ginger Archer is looking for on this team at?
Yeah, I don't really know whether you see this in NA. The build, or one of the builds in EU at the moment, is you go tablet, Book of Thoth, then like breastplate, and then from there you can go Glad Shield, you can go Reeve, you can go E-Staff, you can go Coin, Shard, you can go all sorts of stuff. But the core items would be a tablet, book, and breastplate.
I will say, I do only know about that build from an EU player, so you are most likely right. Thank you to Bazat the Baptist for showing me that build. Looking over at the left lane, Ace K already pushed all the way back to the tower, so Lucky definitely capitalizing on this pick. So now seems to be the point of the team where, point of the game where Red Team really needs to be looking to get some aggression started. They have pressure in left, they have an ever so slight gold lead. But over and right, Shinigami getting forced back under tower by Big Joe. Ace K, hold on, uses the shard. Calvin gets caught out over in the jungle. Kepri's here to peel. Morten chasing down the rat, but not able to catch up. So just a little aggression traded back and forth. But no one going to end up falling here. But a rotation now over towards this gold buff for Chinkai. So definitely some good early action here off the back of Morten.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect anyone to be dying this early unless they massively misplay. I just expect little trades like that to happen where someone gets low and then they'll just dash out and be fine. I feel like the supports and the support of Kepri is just too good at peeling, and there's not going to be enough damage online from the Camazotz yet. So
I do like this pickup in the itemization here for Zenphius on this Khepri. Goes for that Heartward Amulet first item. Definitely think that's very strong. We talked about the quad magical that Jinkai's have picked up here. So hold that thought. Rotation over to right. Calvin dropped to half HP. Shinigami fighting with Big Joe in the right lane. This rat sitting at level 5 still, under-leveling both supports and the enemy jungler. It seems like Calvin not able to find much yet, possibly due to the loss of that early farm.
Yeah, just lost blue buff and speed buff early on, right? Wasted a bit of time there, so that's what's led to him under leveling.
First item starting to tick through across the board for Ginger Archer. It is going to be that tablet picked up for this Tiamat. We have the Devos for Loki, and we have that Telkine's ring getting picked up for Ace K. I believe it's Telkine's. Hold that thought. Calvin gets extraordinarily low. Morton chases it down, gets the blink, hits the 2, but up to the skies goes the Ratatosk. Going to be able to get out thanks to the help of that World Tree. Now the Khepri is the target, and it's a 3-man rotation over in the jungle. And Goosedra just not even safe in their own side of the map. Blue team putting out so much aggression on this late game draft.
Yeah, they're putting out a lot of aggression, but I don't see them ever getting a kill. I'll be honest. Until a couple more items in, that tablet stack up a bit more, and the Kamazot has more damage. I don't see them getting a kill. I'll be honest.
Well, East looking already 7 minutes into the game. Gold is even as Khepri gets taunted in, but it's going to be all she wrote over there. 7 minutes into the game, gold being even is not really what we expected at this point. Morton takes a bit of poke here. Both teams just trading back and forth. And we'd expected that Goosedra here would be pulling ahead, getting some kind of a lead at this point. And though no team has really managed to find a kill just yet, I can't help but feel like this pace is going to be very beneficial to Chinkai's with this draft.
Absolutely, I would think so. I think the Wukong's good late. Obviously, the Anher is fine because of the pillar. That buff to it a while ago made Anher better late. Morgan's good late, but I think it all depends on the Kepriel, right? The rat's gonna slow down. But it all depends on that Kepriel. If you can get a good Kepriel, they'll be fine late game, but I feel like there might just be too much threat and too much damage from the blue team from King Kai's late game.
Also wanted to look over at the build over in the solo lane due to the fact that you are against a magical solo laner. I think it's definitely a good idea not to be picking up that Glad Shield first item, but it looks like neither going to be picked up second item for Shinigami. So this Sun Wukong looking pretty vulnerable to a gank from Morton, but Sun Wukong also a very safe pick, so Morton possibly just thinking that his time is better spent farming up in other parts of the map.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Wukong will level die, to be honest, no matter what he builds, which is why I probably not build what he's building. I'd build something a little bit safer, personally. I guess it's for magical.
Oh, rotation over from Calvin. This could be huge. Gets the stun onto Ace K. Damage coming through onto the Freya. Hops into the Valkyrie's discretion at almost no HP. A dash under tower from Calvin accidentally, but the root plus the Rising Dawn and an auto from Loki is enough to finish off that Freya over in the mid lane, though. A dive under tower cost the life of Kami, but also the life of Ginger Archer. So first blood going to go the way of Goosedra, and then a trade over in the mid lane. Finally, they managed to hit pay dirt, but they're still behind in gold.
Yeah, I think Kami's done God's work there, getting a kill in a 1v2. It was a decent gank by Kelvin, to be fair. The shell was good from Clover, but the ult from Escape perhaps a little late. If you ult whilst the Anher's ult and you avoid most of that damage, right? But it was just afterwards, so a bit unfortunate there. Could have perhaps lived. But nevertheless, a decent gank, and they've done what they wanted to, which is play around Loki and put him ahead.
So with this on her ahead, We have hit 10 minutes, so I guess within the next 10, we're definitely looking at the objectives as Holdmat thought some fighting over in the mid lane. Ginger Archer gets knocked up, taken a half HP. The ultimate comes through from Kami. Ginger Archer goes back in over in the ground stance. So drop to half HP, but that's an ultimate getting burned off of the Morgan Le Fay. And a gank over in left lane gets that gold buff in the hands of the Chinkais. And so still holding on to roughly a 300 gold lead here are the Chinkais, despite dropping that first blood. So this draft making great use of the picks that they have to get that farm that they need to carry themselves further on in this game.
Yeah, I feel like they're just pressuring the map a little bit better. They're on time to their camps, which is something that I can't say Goosedra are right now. They're on time, which means obviously it's more efficient, right? They're on time. They're at every wave. They're at every buff when it's there. They're not waiting 10 seconds, which a lot of Goosedra seem to be doing a little bit. So
We do get the notification that the Stygian Beacon is coming up within the next couple of seconds here, and so we could quite possibly get our first look at a team fight between these two drafts. We definitely favor Jinkai's in that team fight, but that all changes should a pick come through. So Clover going to get out of there. Ginger Archer already on the beacon, and now Calvin and Zinphius trying to rotate over. It's over halfway capped here for Jinkai's double taunt comes through from Clover, but now he's pulled in by the Kepri. It's a 3v3, but a rotation from Solo. Shinigami gets the stun onto the Athena, but so much damage focused into the support and no kill coming through. Kami tries to ult for damage, instead going to end up wasting that on the wave. Lucky gets a solo kill onto Ace King in the left lane, and so now Goosedra decides it's time to go, but Big Joe rotates over and goes big here in the fight. Calvin goes down, so does Zenphius at his hands. Shinigami, though, keeping up the fight. The Sun Wukong does not want to go down without a fight, and so Kami steps onto the point as well. Ginger Archer taking damage with the ground stance is enough to keep this team alive. The Morgan Le Fay stepped up too far and ends up falling as well. But Lucky rotates over the on her, gets the kill onto the Tiamat here. Forced into the ult is Big Joe, and this 14 levels to his name. On her rotates over and makes the absolute difference in this fight. Wasn't going quite so well for Goosedra.
I'd just like to point out how low that beacon was and how close it was to being blue, and then Lucky steps in. Oh my word. What a rotation from Lucky. Gets the solo kill. Runs in, gets a kill onto Ginger, who is fairly big as well. And then they get the beacon off it. That's actually a massive rotation from Lucky, and yet somehow Kins are still slightly ahead.
I mean, you'd said that Lucky was going to be one of the carries for this Goosedra team. And I think he's definitely living up to that prediction here. The on her level 15, 3 levels up now over the Freya. That rotation over. Got a kill after that solo kill on the Freya, which even allowed that rotation. So Goosedra find themselves in a decent spot. Still, though, they end up losing gold off of that exchange. Still drop more kills than they get here. Lucky trying to defend his purple. Going to do so by forcing the Valkyrie's discretion out of Ace K, and this Freya just not having a good time in the duo lane. Still, definitely not the time of game where this pick shines, but I mean, you can't help but feel like Goosedra are going to have to find a way to leverage this on her.
Yeah, I can't believe Ace K is trying to go for that, to be fair. But I mean, Kins have just got to look to play around Big Joe, right? Big Joe is absolutely huge, living up to the name at the moment. Having pushed pushed the tower out. Got a couple of blue buffs early, and getting a couple of kills in that mid fight. Big Joe's massive. You just got to play around him rather than playing around Ace K. Whereas Goosedra will be looking for the opposite, right? They'll be looking to pull a Gold Fury, looking around to play around Lucky rather than anyone else.
So it seems that the map very heavily weighted for one team on either side. Athena needs to be careful. Clover does manage to get the dash as Shinigami chases. Not going to get the Tiger stun. But forcing the dash out of the Athena is going to be the go button here. Goosedra pull the Gold Fury, blocking using the On Her Pillar, and are they going to manage to secure it? Yes, they will. Pyromancer being pulled by Chinkai's, and they will not be able to get it because Shinigami steals it away. The Sun Wukong comes in from behind, and so it's two neutral objectives going the way of Goosedra against the team that we had given the advantage to over these objectives.
Yeah, Shinigami's just different, I guess. I'm gonna get some hate in the Twitch chat from saying that, I think, but to get that steal, kept his team in the game, actually giving his team a little bit of a lead there. Kins would have been absolutely happy with trading the objectives 1-for-1, but to lose that as well, it's not looking good.
Oh, what is this? Morton diving Calvin under the T2 tower over in left.
Oh,
Gets
no.
the stun, but when Morton is going to lose his life, got a little too ahead of himself.
No.
Calvin shuts down the aggression there from the Camazotz, and Morton, you got a little ahead of yourself there, bud.
Yeah, I'm spam laughing that one if that's me. If I'm Calvin, there's definitely a spam laugh coming out there. Maybe some emotes as well. Oh my words.
And Morton on this Camazotz, we'd pegged down as being very important to have ahead and making plays, and so getting a kill and getting that Camazotz behind definitely going to further benefit Goosedra here. Neutral objectives are down though, and we are going to return, it seems, to a time of just farming in lane, provided no big picks come through. This Ginger Archer does get knocked pretty low here. And that is something else to note, as someone who does come from the NA arena of play. Things over in EU tend to be a little slower than what we experience. We're very high octane, so it is nice to be able to take some time to sit back and just discuss what's going on here. If we were to take kind of an overall bird's eye view of what's going on, we do have roughly a 500 gold lead from Goosedra, which is a little smaller than we were expecting, but the experience difference is what we really want to be looking at. 3.5 levels here for Locky over his dual lane counterpart in Ace K. Plus some map positioning.
While things look fairly even, I think I'm happier taking a fight as Goosedra right now. The Tiamat hasn't fully stacked Tablet or Book of Thoth yet, so there's a bit of damage missing there. Obviously Ace K is quite far behind Locky, so there's a bit of damage missing there. Whereas like your carries are ahead on Goosedra. I'm happy taking those fights. Does it matter that your Khepri might be the same level as the Athena? No. Does it matter that your Rat's slightly behind? Probably not. If you can just keep your carries alive and pick the front line, then I'm happy taking a fight as Goosedra here. Especially since Athena's got Prophetic and has got 8 stacks on it. A little criminal, I think.
That is something else to note. We haven't really seen Clover. Oh, brilliant pillar there to block the taunts. Clover gets knocked low, and Locky is just fending off 2 by himself, and I think he could take this if he wants. Hold that thought, though. Calvin and Morton fighting it out once again in the back camps of Goosedra, but now Locky coming in. Great blink and a 2. Locky coming in to try and finish off this Camazotz, but I think it is up. But that out of hell gets Morton out of dodge. Clover knocked low and knocked out right before that ultimate can come through, but definitely still a trade that favors the team of Chinkai's here. And that brings me to a point I was about to bring up before I was so crudely interrupted. That Calvin on this Ratatosker has really not been able to find the early leverage that we expect or even that he needs out of this pick for his team. Still, though, red team find themselves some pressure around this Gold Fury. Ace K low and 2 members here of Chinkai's did have to back, and so this Oni Fury does get started. Ginger Archer is here, fighting it out with Kami as Big Joe rotates over. It looks like the Stygian Beacon is going to be their target, but they're rotating over behind the rest of the team, shaping up for a quite interesting fight here. Ginger Archer goes in, and so does Big Joe. Gets the kill onto the Khepri here, and the ultimate, the World Serpent, coming through the backline of Goosedra here. Shinigami dropped to half HP. The Sun Wukong not even able to get up into the ultimate, and now Locky forced to run for his life. Morton on the chase. Bat out of hell is back up as Ace K chases him down. It's a brilliant whoop. The on her forced to beats Aegis. Morton dropped low up into the ultimate. Goes Calvin, not able to secure the knockup though onto Morton. The dash, the jump was up. So Kami forced to beats out the knockup. And the Morgan Le Fay gets out. Calvin goes back in, tries to hit the stun on Ginger Archer, who is there for it. Burns the ultimate there, but nothing doing. The Oni Fury is going to be the prize here after 2 picks in the favor of Chinkai's.
Yeah, I think they're trading it for Pyro, right? That goal just needs to be done early. It's a bit of a shot call diff there. Like, Goosedra should either take the Oni Fury and commit to it straight away, or just take the fight. Like, they can't just keep dropping it. It kept getting dropped, and it meant they weren't able to do it quickly. And then they're gonna lose the fight because they've taken damage to Gold Fury, right? And then Big Joe rotates. So,
speaking of taking damage, Chinkai's need to be careful here with Loki in any of these fights. It is going to be very tough to really overcome the damage that this on her is outputting. Stygian Beacon still holds at half, and Shinigami's coming over, and it looks like they might have to drop this. Morton ends up going down to Loki, and that is a huge pick to get. Chinkai's realize that they can't keep this fight up, and so now the Stygian Beacon going the way of Goosedra here. And look at that graph. Big swings here. First in the favor of Goosedra, then over to Chinkai's, and now back to Goosedra as they pull the Fire Giant.
I mean, Kins are backed. There's only Joe going to be anywhere near. It's
World
not bad.
Serpent is
I guess
off.
Athena ult's coming up. It's not even up.
Trying to
This
pick
might just be
off
done.
this Yorm. Yeah, you're right. Trying to rotate over. The Fire Giant is getting burned and not going to go for the steal here is Big Joe. Just dropped a little bit too low to risk his life there. So the FG goes the way of Goosedra here. And what a pull that was. As you mentioned, so many people on the side of Chinkai's backed. So just didn't have the opportunity to stop that pull.
Yeah, it's not terrible, honestly. The 2 bombs is the worrying part, right? They can take down towers with those bombs. I wouldn't be too worried about them pushing, because even though they've got FG, they're still gonna have to push under towers and under Phoenixes and things like that. Probably more towers at this stage of the game. And I feel like Kins can definitely take fights on the towers. I don't feel like they're worried about that. It's the bombs that I think you're gonna struggle with, because you think they're gonna. Oh, that should be a kill.
He's caught out. Morton goes in on the Khepri. Khepri gets the root off. Now trying to run away. Does still have access to his ultimate, and Loki is here. Burns his ultimate in order to get extra HP, and now has to get the revive forced out. Morton credited for the kill there, and I'm a little curious as to what Xemphius was doing so far up. The rest of Chinkai's are here, so that is Fire Giant burned off the support, and time burned off of this FG. So Goosedra still have to be careful.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that they're still looking for something, which I'm not sure they should be. All right, they've taken the Khepri away, but they've still got a 5-0 on her. Like I'd just run away, take the win for now.
I do want to look back at the builds, and this is something that I, as a support player myself, am very passionate about. I don't like... Okay, hold that thought. We have a gank happening over in the left lane. Ace K and Morton paying a visit over to Loki on this on her. Morton taking a lot of damage with the bat out of hell is great. Now the rotation over from Athena, and it's a big shutdown here onto the previously 5-0 on her. Morton credited for that kill, hits 20. So that is some wind in the sails of Chinkai's, and I'm just surprised to see that Goosedra hasn't grouped up. Everyone was just split, farming their own lanes. You have Fire Giant make something happen.
Yeah, I think they've actually lost more off this Fire Giant than they've gained.
You might be right.
Which is very interesting.
You are right.
You can't just leave. You can't just leave the Anher that's 5-0 in lane on his own. It's so basic. It's such a basic play. I don't know. It just seems like there's a shot call. There's no one shot call in there, or not hard enough anyways. The call can't be to just go and farm. Like, it just can't be.
Primal Fury now being pulled here by Chinkai's whilst Fire Giant around the waist of 3 for Goosedra. They're going to be none the wiser. Instead, they take the Pyromancer.
Got
Runic
3
Bomb looks like
bombs
it's
and
going
they
to get
still
picked up by
refuse to push a
Kepri.
tower.
Oh, you're right.
Crazy.
Still haven't managed to use these, possibly saving them for later in the game, but we talked about this draft that Chinkai's have, and later on in the game, it might not even be possible for Goosedra to take their fights. They just need to do it, push this advantage now. And I guess I will get back to the point I was trying to make earlier, looking over at the build here for Clover UK. As a support main myself, I am of the opinion that Prophetic is only good on a very select few gods and a select few scenarios. Yamoja, I think it's always strong on, and possibly if you think you're always going to be hitting people like with maybe Kuz or Geb, right? But with an Athena, 11 stacks, sitting 26 minutes into the game, this Prophetic nowhere near done. Morton blinks in onto Kami in the mid lane, forces out the ultimate from the Morgan Le Fay. So that's Blink for ult traded. Stygian Beacon coming up fairly soon. Big Joe is looking around the back, but Loki sees him, going to start shredding away at this Jormungandr, who is forced into the ultimate, is not going to die before the ultimate comes through. Xenphius now running under that tier 2 tower. But without your solo lane, you have to be careful up into the skies. Is the Ratatoskr, the World Tree, serving as his vantage point. Gets the jump onto Ace K, but a brilliant Valkyrie's Discretion stops the knockup. Clover gets a brilliant taunt, but ends up losing his life in the process. Big Joe rotates back in, gets a massive knockup onto Loki. The On-Her is low, but the On-Her is going to get out. Morton jumps in, wants to try and lock down that kill, but instead going to get locked out himself. Calvin credited for that one, getting some much needed vengeance on this Camazotz. And now the chase down onto the 2 remaining in the mid lane as Ginger Archer goes off on his lonesome. Big Joe running away. Ace K though needs to be careful. No dash in the possession of this Freya. Instead just going to run away. Now running over to the Fire Giant are Goosedra. Ginger Archer following close behind. Ace K at half. Make that a quarter HP. Shinigami gets the stun onto Ginger Archer. A brilliant bead stops any further aggression there, but Ace K falls to Shinigami, who was targeting Ginger Archer that whole time. Thanks to this build, though, Ginger Archer able to survive through a lot of that aggression, and the ultimate comes through from Clover UK. Loki pushing down this tower. Kepri falls to Big Joe there, ends up taking the tower for a little bit too long. So T2 tower plus support being traded out here. Ace K still on the respawn. Goosedra making their way over to Fire Giant, possibly just to set up a defense around here. I don't think they can pull it. But Goosedra showing some signs of life.
Honestly, I'm not sure what I'm watching right now. I'm seeing like a Freya stood in the front on their own. I'm seeing Camazotz jumping in at like a 3rd HP to try and get an ult off and then getting CC'd beforehand. I'm seeing Athena taunting 4 people whilst nowhere near the team. Like, I don't know what
at half, trying to get out, hops up into the Ox. Morton and Big Joe will both use their ultimates, and so that's 2 huge ultimates taken away. And what for? For nothing here. Shinigami just gets to go back to base and rotate back in here. Titans, if you look, will be pushing down that left-hand side. The Chaos Titan likely to get the better end of that trade. So another thing here for the Order side of Chinkai's to worry about as now Goosedra start to set up their positioning around this Fire Giant. 4 members here hitting level 20 on both sides. Calvin, though, is going to get resurrected here by the Kepri. Was going to die, but a brilliant usage of that ultimate. And that is what we noted about this pick being ever so important for stopping stuff like that, because you can bet if that Ratatoskr goes down here, we see some aggression from the Chinkais. Just hold that thought. Morton is actually pushing over and left, and so Pyromancer looks to be the call here for the Goosedra, who will end up getting it. Calvin is ulting in, trying to find a target, gets the knockup onto Ace K, gets taunted in though by Clover, and where have we seen this before? But Ace K dropped so low, forcing the Valkyrie's Discretion already. Shinigami chasing him down is going to finish off that Freya, as into the ultimate, the World Serpent forced out of Big Joe, who has but a sliver of HP. And now walking over to the Fire Giant as the Order Titan pushes up the left-hand side, and that will get the Phoenix if it is left to its own devices. And so Goosedra need to get this Fire Giant or win this fight, and they need to do it fast. Big Joe rotates back in. Shinigami and Calvin both dropped low, and so now the fight tending to favor Shinkai's here as Calvin dropped low, and Calvin is going to go down. Morton once more into the bat out of hill, gets the kill now onto Kami, and Shinigami falls as well. Ginger Archer gets credited for that one as pings onto the left Phoenix come through. The Order Titan working away at that bird. Loki trying to save the life of the Phoenix. It's getting low, and it is not going to get taken down, is it? I can't quite tell, but either way, Fire Giant going to get pulled here, and it looks like the Phoenix does live. But that did force Loki to stay in that left-hand side of the map, and you can likely bet that after this Fire Giant goes the way of Shinkai's, which it almost certainly will, that's where they're going to be looking to put their aggression first.
Yeah, I think Big Joe and Ginger Archer are going absolutely massive here, and even Clover, to be fair, like they all went absolutely massive there to just delay the Fire Giant. Their team, the Goosedra team, took so much damage to the Fire Giant that it just made it so easy for Kins to just come in and win the fight once Morton had rotated and once Big Joe had teleported back in.
And so now, with this late game comp finally hitting its stride with builds completed for 3 out of the 5 players here on the side of Shinkai's, looking at what will be our first Phoenix Siege of the game and of the set here, 32 minutes in. Keep in mind this is EFG, we have passed that 30-minute mark. Thankfully, Oni Fury was secured by Goosedra, so not going to have those pushing in on their left Phoenix. But instead, it looks like they will have the 5-man grouping of Shinkai's pushing in on their Phoenix, as Shinigami sets up a little too far, forced to dash out. Playing it slow here for the Shinkai's. They know that they can't get too far ahead of themselves, but this fight definitely favoring them for more reasons than one.
I mean, one of the main reasons it favors them is that Goosedra have less space for ward slots, right? They've got.
Oh, you're right. 4 runic.
They've got 4
runic
bombs. They're just holding on to.
Oh
I don't know what these bombs are going to be used for, especially since they're behind now. But I guess we'll see.
Is it something like you have it in your inventory and you accrue interest on the gold that you have? Is that how it works, or am I just crazy?
I think you can sell them for 33, which is probably one of the best uses. And I guess you can just put them down for peel, but I don't know. It's sketch, isn't it?
Well, either way, the Phoenix Siege going to start up, and importantly, no runic bombs in the pockets of the Shinkai's here as that left Phoenix is recovered to half HP. Calvin trying to fight off Morton here, but Morton is going to win the poke trade there the longer this fight goes on. Big Joe now rotating over. Kepri is going to be there to answer the push of this Yorm, but Calvin on the rat just keeps getting poked, but waiting for when Shinkai is determined that their time is to strike, and it looks like it's now. Clover UK goes in, gets the taunt onto Shinigami, but loses his life in the process as Disaster is striking as Shinigami barely able to make it up, and a Somersault Cloud. Loki jumps in, forced the bead Aegis on her and loses his life in the process. A little quizzical what that decision there was. Ace K though goes down to Calvin, and now the Ratatosker on a mission to get out of there. Big Joe is low, so Shinkai's try to push down this mid-Phoenix. Morton gets stunned. Shinigami, though, excellent on the defense, and he gets feared back into the Phoenix as Kami picks up yet another kill. Shinigami chasing down this Tiamat. Does manage to get the jump out. The beads come through from Shinigami aggressively, wants to get this kill onto the Tiamat, and it looks like they will manage to get the slow, the sprute, everything coming through to lock out the life of this mid laner, and Ginger Archer will finally fall. In East, it looks like we might finally get use out of these runic bombs.
There we go. See, this is what they're for. Bang! There we go. 3 bombs. Get them down. That's the Phoenix. There you go.
And in the blink of an eye, the mid Phoenix disappears, but not from the base of Goosedra. Instead, Chinkai is going to lose that. I was a little quizzical of why Locky jumped in there, but followed up by the rest of his team. They managed to get the defense, and they managed to get that mid Phoenix, and now the ball firmly in the court of Goosedra. Big Joe trying to make something happen, but I don't think he can, not with the presence of 4 members, despite how low Shinigami is. So East, looking at the positioning we have now, still definitely a draft that is favoring Shinkai's at this point in the game. However, Goosedra find themselves with pressure in the mid lane in the form of these fire waves. Do you think Shinkai's can still step up to this fire giant? Do they have to in order to keep themselves in this?
Yeah, they definitely can still contest. I don't think they have to, because I think they win the defenses and the Phoenixes anyways, even if Gooster had EFG. I think it's just such a strong comp for that with Athena and Tiamat and Yorm, all the poke that you've got, things like that. But I feel like they can definitely contest, so I don't see why they shouldn't.
Morton jumps out, able to save himself from what could have been a very, very dangerous situation. And the pause, I think, does give us time to talk here, East, about some of the builds. Maybe take a look at what's going on there. We see Ginger Archer, that final item being the Ethereal Staff. I have seen Glad Shield getting picked up in that slot as well, but I think that when you do have that Pendulum giving you that 20% CDR plus the 20% coming from the breastplate, definitely makes more sense to go for that item.
Yeah, I quite like the stuff there, to be fair. You're going to be taking a lot if you're hitting the Capri as well, a lot of that health. I would have perhaps liked a Divine, but that's just me being picky. Yeah, there are some interesting builds, though. We've got Spikes and Pridwin out of Rat. I don't hate it. I probably wouldn't have gone the Jotuns if I was going that route, because now you're stuck at 50% CDI if I'm counting right. You've got the Bumbers 10, Jotuns 20, Pridwin 20. But it's not the end of the world to overcap, I guess. Same with Shinigami's build, right? You get the 10% on Warriors. You've got Pridwin 20, Glad Shield 10, Genji's 10. So that's 50 as well. But I mean, I don't hate it. So
possibly the build's needing a slight bit more as far as the optimization is concerned, but still going to be hitting very, very hard, especially considering a lot of these picks that they are on. Looking over at the duo lane, do want to see that Freya has hit full build, and so despite that early deficit, the 1, 5, and 3 stat line that we see for Ace K here, still going to be swinging in a lot of these fights just as hard as the Freya would have been level 20 if that scoreline was more akin to what Locky has running over here. I also wanted to look at the solo lane because Big Joe not looking very tanky.
he's Yorm, right? You're not going to kill him. E-Staff, Guardian base prot, Stoner Binding, Glad Shield, and the amount of prot you get from Tainted is just insane. So I don't feel like you'd have to focus him down, right, to kill him. They've not got great lockdown because most of the CCs they've got that could lock him down, like the hard CCs anyways, are not ones that affect Yorm. Like the Anhair Impale doesn't really do anything. The Kepri Pluck, the Kepri Root, it's not massive. You can just ult to get out of them really. It's all just slows and roots, and there's only really Rat Stun or Wukong Stun, Morgan Fear. But you can just Aegis and then ult. I feel like you're chilling.
So Big Joe definitely capitalizing on the lack of CC that can really put this Yorm in its place. I do again want to look at Clover UK's build. That prophetic cloak is still bothering me a little bit here. Sitting at 20 stacks, so still yet to complete that as of 36 minutes into the game here.
My question for you is, do you think if Clover sold that prophetic and bought Thebes now, do you think it would be stacked before the prophetic would be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think so, because I think that the Athena, if you are hitting an ability, it is a start of a fight, and so that would require maybe 5 team fights. Let's say you're getting 2 stacks a fight, right? I'd say that maybe require 5 team fights for this Athena to get that stacked. And I guess East, that is another question, kind of with the slower pace of play over in Europe compared to North America. People in America definitely favor that prophetic cloak a lot. Do you see it less over there in Europe, or is it something that you just stack through a lot of the poke? As we do see the pause end here. Psych, it ends now.
It's more god dependent over here. Some people still go it on like every god, and like this one for example. I don't think it's very good.
Ooh.
Well, I know it's not very good, but it's mainly Thebes. You see cloak on like Kazembo or Umoja or like mage supports that have ranged autos, right? Because you can proc it with the autos and you like knocks
Mhm.
and ESET stuff like that. But mainly, you don't see it that much. And you say like aggressive American style. I say bad macro. So
All right, some hot takes here coming through from the east. So we see Goosedra looking to try and get a gank here on Morton, who is just gonna retreat into the jungle. That's the nice thing about being a Camazotz. You're fast, you're evasive, hard to get, as Big Joe had his ultimate forced out earlier. So really not looking to start an engagement using your Yorm here. If that root hits Clover, you can bet that a fight starts. Not quite going to come through, hiding behind the rocks instead. Argustra Clover gets a brilliant taunt there onto Locky, but that's going to be all. Magi forced off by the impale from the on her. Big Joe coming in from behind 3, and just some more poke happening. No team yet to find the engagement that really break the fight. Zenfius misses his dash, and now the Kepri drops to half. So is Lucky on the on her, and Morton just goes straight in. Ace K finishes off the kill using the Valkyrie's discretion. Now, Shinigami forced into the somersault cloud. Zenfius being chased down, forced to Kepri ult himself. Calvin jumps in, tries to make a hero play, is going to end up in the gray screen. Shinigami, though, managed to claw back a kill here onto Morton as Goosedra retreat in the faces of 4. Big Joe putting some more damage out. Shinigami dropped low. Ginger Archer putting out some more pressure. Ace K, crucially, still alive here for the Chinkais in this Freya. We see that Bumba's spear, so this Fire Giant definitely going to burn pretty darn quick here if Goosedra are not able to respond in time.
I think if it's next patch, right, and the bug with EFG being too tanky is fixed, I'm calling FG there, but I don't think they can do it there. I think the Wukong, the Morgan, the Kepri will just go and kill them all. I think if
I'm
they
not
stay on EFG
familiar.
too long.
What's the
It
bug?
was in the new patch notes, and it's apparently a bug. The EFG is just way tankier than it should be. And
Interesting.
they've given absolutely no like facts and figures and
Figures
statistics
on
and
it,
stuff to back
since
that
we
up. I
don't
don't
know
think, but
how it's tankier. It just
it
is.
it just is tankier. I think from what I read. I may be wrong, but I think from what I read, it's just a bug that it's just tankier than it should be. So next patch I'm calling FG there. This patch I'm not.
Stun here onto Big Joe. Taunted in, good peel from Clover, but the Yorm is caught in the middle of the entire enemy team. It's going to go down at the hands of Kepri as Morton now diving in onto the on her, but a beautiful Kepri ult is going to stop Morton's aggression here. Calvin now hopping up into the World Tree. Yggdrasil will guide his way as he jumps down, though burning only the Magi's here from Clover on the Athena. And that fight win earlier on did not secure an FG for Chinkai's, but it did give them enough time to get that Phoenix back up and alive. Pyromancer being taken again, and we have 3 runic bombs over here in the pockets of Goosedra. Pyromancer Fiends here gotten, I believe, every single one this game.
It's a bit criminal, isn't it? They just can't help
Certainly
themselves.
is. Big Joe, 20 seconds left on the respawn for this Jormungandr. And so I'm surprised to see that Gooster has not really pushed the advantage that they have right now, because as soon as this Yorm comes in, that teleport glyph is going to be up, and this Yorm will be fighting.
I think
So
we can
neither
look for them
team.
on the positive side. They've got all the wards out, right? They've won the
True.
ward battle at the moment. Don't get me wrong. Kins have got some in their inventory, but Goosedra have pretty much covered that rewards, and that's what these fights are about. Until you're wiped by like 3 or 4, you can't really get FG.
Yeah, both teams getting maybe 1 or 2 picks here or there, but neither able to spool it into a large enough team fight win to secure one of those oh so crucial fire giants and push us on to a siege. And I think sitting at 41 minutes, a team fight win here could also just spell the end of the game if you're not careful. So neither team wants to go down for the first game in this set. You want to go up 1-0, put yourself 1 win away from making it on into the next phase of playoffs here. So some
I really like what Morton's doing. He's trying to take the jungle 1v1 right, which he
Over gets
definitely wins.
plucked, and that's huge onto the Athena, who is going to go down at the hands of Shinigami, but now Big Joe and Morton diving in. Calvin forced up into the World Tree. Locky goes down to Morton, forced into the bat out of hell. And it's a dive onto the Camazotz, who goes down at the hands of the Ratatosker, who is now on the retreat. Turns around, though, onto Ginger Archer, has the Kepri ult to keep him alive. And this Tiamat is not able to finish off the life of the Ratatosker. Valkyrie's Discretion, though, secures the kill onto the Kepri. Ace K putting in a lot of work in the 11th hour of this game. So 3 kills swing the way of Goosedra, but 2 in response. Crucially, with that Valkyrie's Discretion at the end there from Ace K, put Chinkai's in a place where they can just rest up, recover, and wait till the next fight around FG.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the play, right? They're stalling until they can get a better Athena taunt than they're currently getting. At the moment, they get Athena taunted, and then they're too far away from their team, and then it's a Kepri pluck, and the Athena dies, right? Whereas if they can get a better Athena taunt, get Ace K actually hitting some damage off it, then that's what they're looking for, right? And until then, I guess they'll take stalling the game out.
We do see builds completed across the board for both teams here. I think a Relic Dagger being the last pickup here for Xenphius over on this Capri. Hold that thought. Calvin takes so much from the Freya here. And I believe that Xenphius was actually building something else there, had that green gem instead, the first kind of tier 1 dagger there. So definitely, I think, wanting to get use out of this shell, get use out of this Sprute a little more often. As well, possibly a way to stop the auto attacks from the Camazotz. Because Morton, as we've talked about, has been a chief player here for Chinkai's in a lot of these fights. 7, 6, and 8. A lot of deaths, but he's been getting in there, making things happen for his team. He goes in, gets a kill, gets the fight started. And a lot of the time has been able to get the kill onto Locky, which is crucial for stopping a push around this fire giant.
Yeah, I think Kins should just look to play the poke build at poke game. They've got Kama who's decent for poke, they've got Yorm who's decent for poke, Tiamat decent for poke. Whereas the other side, they've only really got Wukong, maybe Morgan, but they've not really got much to heal off either, so I think just play the poke game here. Morton is going...
Morton,
he's
long
flanking.
play here. Gets behind and a dive in. They call. Now is the time to go in. Up into the ultimate goes Morton. Locky forced into the Bee's Aegis, but crucially, this on her will live. Calvin goes into the ultimate, diving down onto the Freya. The combined efforts of Shinigami and Calvin are not enough. The Bee's Aegis plus the Valkyrie's Discretion able to get this Freya out of there. So Locky lives, but so does the entirety of Chinkai's. Pyromancer being pulled here does get secured by Goosedra. Big True rotating in now. Goosedra, I think, making the smart decision, just backing up. Really cannot afford to lose another player here, because that could be the pull onto the Fire Giant and possibly the push into the Phoenix and into the Titan room to end things. Calvin still down for another 35 seconds. Fire Giant looking to get started up, it would seem, here by the Chinkais, and it's burning fast.
Yeah, Bumba Spear Freya, I'm afraid. That's going to go pretty quick. And it's not even, like, difficult for them to defend, right? They've got... Oh,
Shinigami's here, so is the entirety of Goosedra. It's a 50-50, and Goosedra
Oh.
manages to steal it away. The Athena also loses her life. Ginger Archer trying to make his way out of here. Lucky gets the kill onto Ace K. Kami goes down, but at what cost? Big Joe will lose his life on the Yorm as a fight. Shinigami loses that one-on-one to Ginger Archer, and so that is a big loss here, but with your ADC up, I can't help but feel like this Phoenix, nay, possibly this Titan, could not be long for this world. Goosedra steal away the EFG. They come up huge in that fight on the back end. Shinigami sadly loses his life, but 3 people running down this mid Phoenix. It is all up to Ginger Archer on this Tiamat to keep his team in the game. East, does he have what it takes?
We will see, won't we? No relics, so
Yeah,
it's gonna be
drops half
sketch.
HP, gets ulted on top of Forced Under the Fountain, and this Titan is low. The wave following in close behind the rest of Goosedra coming in. Force, this Titan is low, and this
Yeah, it's
Titan
done.
looks like it's going to go down. Ginger Archer, to add insult to injury, going down as well. And Goosedra, the lower seed here, managed to go up 1-0 on Shinkai's.
What a game, right? Do you know what's ironic? I think the pyro bombs secured that FG.
Yeah, we muted. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Losers Round 2 match here in Middle Division playoffs between Chinkai's and Goosedra. I am Cabbage, joined here on the cast by East and the wonderful DeCaptain on production. And East Game 1 ends with a win for Goosedra, both a team that we did not really expect to have won that, coming in a lot lower of a seed than Chinkai's, as well as having a draft that definitely favored more into the early game against the hyper late game draft of the Chinkais. And so, coming into this game number 2, 1 point away from elimination, are Chinkais. Do you think that these teams might need to change up their drafts, change up their bans in order to get something a little different? Or do you think that the issue wasn't the drafts last time and that it just came down to their play on field?
I think they could change up the drafts, and I wouldn't mind it if they did, because I don't think either of them were particularly great drafts. But I don't think it was the drafts that caused the issues. The King Kais were getting good engages off the Athena taunts, right? But they were slightly too far away from their carries, so the carries couldn't get the damage off from the taunts, and it just led to the Athena getting picked with a Kepri pluck. And then dying from there, which was just a bit sketch for them, really. I think if they just try and play a bit more together in the team fights, then they'll do better this game.
Well, after winning that game number 1, Goosedra going to end up taking that first pick. I do know a lot of teams seem to favor having that second pick. Do you have any particular thoughts on it?
I think it very much depends on who you're playing against, like team v team wise. I change it up based on who I'm playing against and what I'm looking to pick and ban, to be fair.
So possibly in this situation, Chinkai's saying that they have something in mind for this second pick here, as Freya, contrary to last game, is going to be banned out, as Sun Wukong, though, left open and immediately locked in here for Goosedra. So we do get to see Shinigami reprise their role on that Wukong. Yorm being hovered here.
I kind of hate this drafting, I can't lie. You've picked Wukong, which leaves the Yorm open, right? Because they're both pretty much as good as each other. So why would you pick the Wukong first? Surely they've got something else in mind that they want even more. And then similarly, the other way around, why would you pick the Yorm straight away? Goosedra aren't going to pick it, so why would you not leave it till third and get something else that you prioritise in 1 and 2? It makes no sense to me.
Definitely several questions. I guess the only possible response would likely be something along the lines of comfort. Maybe it's just Shinigami really likes Sun Wukong as a pair to Yorm. I guess we may never know. But Geb being hovered here for Goosedra, and Geb being locked in. I mean, Geb, I think a stronger pick than Kepri right now, but still surprised to see it picked up third pick without really a super particular cleanse in mind.
I think it's for the Athena tone, right? I don't hate it, honestly. I think it's much better than the Kepri, so I'm more of a fan of this for sure. I like the rat pick. I don't think it was played particularly amazing last game, but I like the idea of the rat pick.
So in theory, Goosedra's draft looking pretty solid here. Chinkai's going to be looking now at picking up the Tiamat once again, hovering that pick, and if this Tiamat does get locked in, we'll be reprising 3 of the same gods that we saw in the last game from Chinkai's, but notably this time the Freya is off the field, so likely actually going to be seeing some physical damage coming out of that dual lane.
You say that, but Oleron is open.
Is Oleron also a big deal over across the pond?
Yeah, Oleron is... Oh, it's gone now, but Oleron is... very highly prioritized. The ult is just ridiculous, and the damage at the moment with Gilded Arrow is just insane.
As the bans roll through, like we said, that Oleron taken off the board, as well as Rama, very strong pick. Bastet and Kama being taken off the board. Morton had a very, very strong performance on that Kamazot's pick, and so not surprised to see that taken out of his hands. Heim getting locked in despite Hachi being open, and that's another pick that I think over in North America is solid at least, but is it something that you'd really prioritize over the Hachi here?
I think this Heim gets absolutely eaten alive by this Rat and Wukong. I'll be honest. I don't like it. I know Ace K is a big fan of it, but I don't like it at all. Slightly surprised that Lucky didn't decide to go for the Hachi. I guess fancies the X-Bell.
X-Ball getting picked up, so a lot of boxing potential coming out from the dual lane here for Goosedra. With Geb locked in, though, I'm not expecting a ton to come out early on. Scylla, though, getting picked up as the final pick for Kami over here in the mid lane. So Goosedra's draft is going to be finally rounded out. Looking at the draft that they have so far, I don't see any super specific setup for the ultimate besides maybe a knock-up or a cataclysm here from Gab.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of free throwing, right? But at the same time, Athena's going to be looking to dash taunt you. If you're not dash taunting the Scylla, you're going to get rooted and crushed by the Scylla, and you're going to take a lot of damage. So I don't hate it. And again, mages are what kills Heim the most easily, right? You've got a god that's not got a dash outside the ultimate, does have a teleport, but it takes a while to go off. And whilst it's going off, you throw a load of mage damage onto the Heim. So I don't mind the Scylla, really. I think it's not bad here.
So the Scylla, slightly unorthodox picks like Merlin still left on the board, but Goosedra, they know what they want. They pick that up. So now Shinkai is still contemplating with this final pick for Morton over in the jungle. He's going to be here. Arachne is the one getting hovered here.
You're
This
mine.
would be a very interesting
It's
pick,
locked.
and it does.
No way.
Get picked up.
No way.
East, you seem a little despondent here.
I wasn't really around in season 1 of this league much, but apparently Morton used to play Arachne a fair bit. But obviously it's now season 4. We're nearing the end of season 4, and I heard him say a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month, something like that, something about Arachne not being that bad right now, and I don't know. That god is absolutely terrible, and a lot of other words that I shouldn't really say on a cast. Like, I don't know what's going on.
So the Morton Arachne, a storied pick, it would seem, in this league, being locked in here for Chinkai's. I am struggling to wrap my head around this, because I think even further to your point, Arachne, not a very strong pick just in general, specifically into the draft that Goosedra have. There's so much in the way of CC immunity, so much in the way of peel, of rooting out this Arachne. I just don't see how this Arachne is going to be able to get through to the back line. But Jinkai's back against the wall. This could be something that it just comes out of nowhere and manages to just dominate the arena.
I honestly don't hate it. I think the god's terrible. Don't get me wrong. I think the god's terrible, but I think for what Morton's looking to do, or what I'd be looking to do if I was him, I don't think this god is terrible here. I think if you can get past the bad early clear and actually get some levels, I think you're chilling, right? You're gonna be looking to win the game before the team fights coming in, maybe even split punch once they come in, because you're not going to lose a 1v1. So I don't hate it. I don't think it's good, don't get me wrong. I would not be picking it. I would be picking something like, I don't know, Bakasura, personally, but, that's just me. We'll see, won't we?
I guess we will. I guess that does bring us over to take our final look at both of these drafts just as a whole. Again, the obligatory question about which draft we think has the advantage going into this. And East, that Arachne pick and the Heimdall pick just don't seem like picks that I can ever really give the draft win to, unless you have some pretty strong stuff in the 4 picks around it. But 2 of them together, I have to give this to Goosedra.
Yeah, I think I agree. You've got to be giving the draft to Goosedra here. However, I do think there is potential for King Kais to win this. I can't lie. I know they're the underdogs based off the draft, but
Well, we are experiencing some technical difficulties, so we're going to send things over to a quick break, and we'll be right back once things are up and running. Alrighty, welcome back everyone. Technical difficulties almost completely dealt with here. Just to bring you all back in, Kinkai's versus Goosedra here. Kinkai's ended up losing that game 1 to Goosedra in what was a little over 40 minutes with that late game draft that they ended up having. And so Goosedra find themselves up 1-0, almost able to move on here to losers round 3. But in order to do so, they need to get another win here in this second game, or should it come to it, in the third game hereafter. Something important that really stuck out to us during the drafts, once we do get into game, is the Arachne pickup in the jungle for Morten.
Yeah, I think it's where the entire game lies, right? This is the one. If you don't win this game, you're out. So go big or go home, and that's what Morton's going for. He's going big, hopefully, with the Arachne pick. Could be very troll, could get absolutely farmed, but we'll see. It's certainly a pick that we've not seen so far this season in GSL, that's for sure. I can say that with quite a lot of confidence, even though I've not even looked at most of the low division or happy division games. And yeah, I can still say with a lot of confidence that Arachne has not been picked.
Definitely not the most popular god to get picked up in the game, but surely there's got to be a reason for Morten to pick it up here as we do finally transition here into game number 2 between Goosedra and Chinkai's. Chinkai is going to be the Chaos side this time around. We do get a very good look here at the Arachne coming into the jungle here in the hands of Morten. A storied pickup for this player ever since the beginnings of GSL. And a pick that, while not strong in its own right, and while I don't think it does particularly well into the comp that Goosedra have, I will give you this, East. I think it will work very well with the playstyle that Morten has been going, where he's invading a lot of these back camps and just looking to get to the point where he can 1v5.
Yeah, it's looking for picks, right? You're looking for a god that can 1v1, have decent pressure early, can kill a god late game, in a 1v1, and that's what you're looking for, right? You're not picking Arachne to have a really good team fight. You're picking Arachne to have a good 1v1, try and get a pick, maybe split push, try and get another pick, that sort of stuff. And it's good at picking frontline as well, so that's what it's mainly there for. One thing I would like to say is you said you're a support main, right? And you made a few points about it last game. I don't know if you've noticed the builds on the supports.
Right. Both of them going to be going into that prophetic cloak here, as East has so wonderfully pointed out. And we saw Clover UK. I didn't actually check if Clover was able to get that stacked by the end of the game. I don't think so, but I'm not completely certain. Either way, Zenfia is also going to be stacking up that prophetic cloak once it does get built. I think it's easier for Geb to stack it up just because that 2 is a lot less committal than the Athena taunt. Same with when you're starting fights with your Cataclysm, just a lot more opportunities to start fights and get stacks. It really depends though on how you're playing it for Zenfia's here.
Yeah, I agree. Although I don't think it's terrible to stack it on Athena, right? You can get it with the passive, the reach, I think it's called, the
True.
autos. So I don't think it's horrendous to stack. I just think you need to actually be using those autos to do it, rather than not stacking it at all. I think that's the problem,
You need to make a
right?
conscious effort.
When you go prophetic, it needs to be a conscious effort to stack it. You can't just AFK and do what you want to do. You need to actually make a conscious effort. There's a god there, I need to get a stack, and I don't think Clover put enough of an emphasis on that last game.
Support players have been spoiled by our Gauntlet of Thebes that we seem to have forgotten what it's like to work for our stacks. I'm sure all the tablet builders are prying right now. Either way, Calvin, though, going to stop over here on the left side of the map. Ace K does manage to get out thanks to that teleport. Clover drops down to half. Calvin already getting active pretty early on the Ratatosker, and this is something that's very, very nice to see. because Calvin did not really have the early impact that we wanted him to have on the rat.
Yeah, very true. Back camps traded out, it looks like. Morton taking the Goosedra back camps and Calvin on the other side taking the duo side back camps. So
Possibly the
fairly
blue buff
even.
as well.
Yeah, definite blue buff invade, I would imagine.
Big Joe forcing Shinigami under tower. Morton just waiting over here by the blue buff. Meanwhile, just letting Calvin get invades on his side of the map. But I think this is a trade you'll take. Shinigami wants to get the steal with the Jingu Bong. Not going to be able to do it. Burns way too fast in order to intercept that. So the Sun Wukong losing the buff there. Now Morton pushing further into the jungle, going for the speed buff here.
Speed for speed as well.
Morton definitely fiending for the back camps on this Arachne, but I think that's something that you probably have to expect if you're Goosedra. Though it's a little atypical for junglers to be doing something quite like it. Arachne is not your typical jungler.
Kami's lost a full wave though, whilst having to drag that red all the way back to speed, right?
Ooh.
Because Morton was there, right, taking the speed, but Kami had to drag it all the way back, and he lost an entire wave to tower in that time.
So some lost farm being caused by the pickup of the Arachne. So Morton definitely making his presence felt early on, albeit not in the form of kills, but just the change missing from your pocket. But early on, not really exactly where we expect Goosedra to make the most of their money. I think we're definitely looking at that mid game once this Geb gets involved, once this Rat starts to get the ultimate up and running. Shinkai's going to have to be careful once those ults come online.
Question: are you spending 220 gold on wards 4 minutes into the game?
Did Calvin?
No,
Is that
no,
what Calvin
Clover,
did?
Clover, two
Clover?
wards and a sentry.
Oh, you're right. Okay. No, not usually. Especially when I'm
When you've
building a
already got a
stacking
ward
item.
on their purple as well.
Wow.
Bit early, I think.
Clover definitely prioritizing the vision for his team here.
Absolutely.
Vision
Over
very
those
important.
stacks.
Possibly just trying to get some sight down for the Arachne to find some good times to farm. Speaking of Arachne, Calvin and Morton going to face off a little bit in the jungle. That's going to be all that happens there. Shinigami is dropped low, and Morton has just
This
been
blue's gone, isn't it?
babysitting this side of the lane, and you're right, this blue is a foregone conclusion.
Oh.
Shinigami could die as well, and will die. Brilliant ultimate from Big Joe, combined with the efforts of Morton and Clover. This Yorm sitting at level 7. Morton careful not to die to the buff. With the solo lane pressure coming out from Shinkai's early on. Exquisite here off the back of the Arachne.
That's what you've got to be looking to play through, right? The Heim can just sit in tower and farm up, whereas if you get this Yorm ahead, Yorm can absolutely eat this X-Ball alive. I feel like that's what they'll be aiming to do. What I would question, the Rat, I hate to question builds because I feel like unless we're actually like a massively high level, I don't think it has a massive impact, especially this early on. But surely you're not going T2 Acorn and then going T2 with a different item. Surely you either go the item or you go the Acorn. I don't know.
You know, some people are gonna build what they're gonna build, I guess, is the moral of the story here, East. As you're right, that tier 2 item being built, and it looks like it's probably going to be a Jotuns if I had to guess. But I am very much questioning that pickup as opposed to something like finishing off that Acorn here. Maybe he has something in mind and we'll all be eating our words later.
Yeah, we'll see, won't we? In the meantime, though, I feel like pink guys just have to keep doing what they're doing. They're 1.5k up. Keep putting pressure on this Wukong because it's definitely working.
And Morton definitely going to have a lot of pressure, both in that right-hand side of the map and just on the jungle camps here. This Arachne having that golden blade finished. Calvin, though, is the first one on the scene to put a stop to this Arachne, forced up into his ultimate. Does he want to chase down Morton here? He's thinking about it. Is he going to do it, though? Decides that that is not the best course of action. Instead, he's going to have his team cooperate. Will manage to secure the buffs on their side of the map, which is very important here. So denying some of that invade farm from the Arachne going to go a long way getting Morton stopped.
Yeah, I don't feel like these cloaks are getting stacked quick enough. I hate to keep coming back to the builds, but I feel like people just don't think about them enough. Like, you're not gonna. What's the Geb looking to fight round, right? You're
Not a
not looking
gold
to
pull.
fight round the.
They're pulling the
Silicon.
Gold Fury.
They are pulling
With
gold.
an early game Arachne. Not super surprised to see this, and I guess no
They don't
one
have a
really
clue.
paying enough attention. Lucky is just soloing Ace K in front of the tower. He is going to get the solo kill, drops the ultimate for it, but paying all attention over in that left-hand lane. Where is he not paying attention? Well, it's over on the Gold Fury. The Xenphius does manage to get credited for the kill onto Big Joe in the solo lane. Huge kill to get on the level 10 Yorm. Definitely not the player you'd want it on. Would have rather had that on the Rat or on the Sun Wukong. But a kill is a kill is a kill, and greatly appreciating putting that Yorm behind.
And they're invading the jungle that's not there as well. This is so terrible. They've got
Trying to
two
get that
picks,
red.
which is nice. Like it works out roughly for the gold. It's not terrible. You still probably lose a bit, but it's not horrendous. But then invading the jungle that's down it feels bad, isn't it? You've got a farm up that you could be doing on your side.
And their red buff was up, but probably just assumed that the timers would be synced up. But Arachne invades. We're going to change the answer there. Shinigami now forced into his ultimate, avoids that next hit there of the World Serpent. Now just needs to find a way to get out away from the Athena. Just going to jump back down in place. And I don't think anyone on the side of Chinkai's were expecting that. So Shinigami, thanks to some clever maneuvering, is going to manage to get out. The Sun Wukong incredibly safe, and just going to get safer as this game goes on. Calvin is low.
I feel like that could have been a kill there if Ginger committed a little bit more.
Over in mid farming the waves, it would seem. Lucky and Ace K. Lucky's just been duking it out with this Heim, and I mean, I feel like X-Ball definitely gets the better end of that. Very strong god when it comes to the box.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the Heim should just be sat on the tower. I'll be honest. I feel like if you're sat on the tower here, you're getting the only thing you're going to do is concede pressure, right? And if you're conceding pressure, it gives space for the Arachne to gank. I don't feel like you should be this far up, for example, because you can just lose. You just lose the trades. Like the X-Ball bowlers will just out-trade you if they're hit consistently enough. Maybe Ace K is looking for the outplay potential, but I don't know. I still feel like the trade goes in favor of X-Ball.
I feel like all it would take in this situation is you get hit by the bolas once, and then that's got to be it. He can just save his dash for when you use the Galar Horn, immune the knockup at the very end, and Ace K really needs to be careful here. Though, Clover UK is on the way over with the Athena, so help will arrive should Locky push up a little bit too far. This pause does give us some time to look at the builds. Tablet does get finished here for Ginger Archer, so I think that this team at going to be going the same build as last game, and I don't fault him. Definitely strong build, strong god, and had a good performance on it. Big Joe still sitting up roughly a level and a half over Shinigami, despite that fall around the blue buff. It would seem that Shinigami's still just not able to find the foothold needed to really climb back into that lane.
Yeah, even with the blue buff and the assist on the Yorm, it's still not going to put you back ahead, is it? The Yorm's been getting every totem, every cooldown buff, and even invaded a couple of blues. He's still not going to get that with just an assist on the Yorm. It's not going to work itself out, is it?
guess taking a look at things in a more general sense, Chinkai's have managed to secure roughly a 1.5k gold lead over the forces of Goosedra here. And seeing as that Stygian Beacon is going to be coming up in just a couple minutes, wouldn't be surprised to see Goosedra trying to leverage the team fight that they have, but they're going to have to do so whilst dealing with stuff like this. Morton invading the back camps with 3 members of Goosedra, trying to target down onto Morton here are the members of Goosedra, but not going to be able to take out this Arachne. The blue buff gets invaded, and looks like it gets taken away here by the Chinkais yet again.
They certainly got that blue buff, didn't they? It's not even that terrible, though, because all 4 of Goosedra responded to it, right? So it was 4 people there for 4 people there. Although, I guess Goosedra take a pretty free green buff off it.
Take a green buff. It looks like they might be looking at the chest cans instead. Ginger Archer stepped up a little far on his own, but with Morton now present, Calvin up into the ultimate. And that World Tree going to save the life of the Ratatosker. Calvin having that ultimate definitely been quite the lifesaver throughout last game and this game. Calvin has finished that Bumbas, sitting on enough to finally upgrade that Acorn, is going to do so. Morton, though, incredibly low and just disappears from the face of the map. Had ult, but that is the one solid CC that we had talked about, being able to set up those kills, that Geb ultimate, especially using it after you get the knockup, really just able to put that Arachne in the dirt.
Yeah, absolutely. If you can
No
lock the
beads.
Arachne down, and it's going to be the same with the Heim, right? If you can lock the Arachne or the Heim down, the Scylla's just going to eat them alive, I think. That was the plan of the Scylla, I would imagine. And it's worked well there.
Morton did not start the beads either, started with the Blink Rune instead. So this Arachne, very aggressive, but, I mean, gonna struggle to get aggressive when you can't kill the people you're trying to engage on, and this Geb just going to be such an unstoppable wall in the face of this Arachne. Now, you did say that this Arachne would likely need to build something to shred the tanks. Looking at the Oboe, the chin size, stuff like that. Oboe already built. Crit not going to work very well against Geb. Clover gets caught out by Shinigami and Calvin. The rest of the member of Chinkai is trying to rotate behind. The Athena goes down. The Fury looks like it does go the way of Goosedra. Now the retreat is the call from Goosedra. You lose your Geb in the process. Calvin now coming down to try and save Kami from Morton, who takes an absolute beating from that ultimate. And Lucky comes in to finish off the kill. Big Joe rotating in behind. Calvin dashes in and is now trapped between 2. Big Joe gets the knockup, and it is easy as for Big Joe. Gets the kill onto the Ratatosker, and now Lucky trying to retreat. Gets his way under the tier 1 tower, but still being chased down by this Jormungandr. Gets killed off. Jorm still had the ult, able to make it under just before that tower shot hits. And Big Joe, big plays during the tail end of that fight. Shinigami looks like he is going to get saved here by Xenphius. So you get the Fury if you're Goosedra, but at what cost?
Yeah, you've lost 3 for 1 there. I don't feel like it's particularly worth. And do you know what's even crazier as well? I feel like if Clover just has a full stack Thebes, I don't feel like Clover dies there. I hate to keep coming back to it, but it's just you're not tanky. You've got 11 stacks on prophetic. I don't know what those stacks are, whether physical or magical, but that's a maximum of what is it like? You get 10 on sentinels. You get, let's say it's all on physical, for example, 11 stacks on physical. You've got 25 plus the 11, so 36 plus 10 on sentinels, so 46. You're not feeling tanky at all. Like, you've got a bit of health, but I don't know. You could just have a full stack Thebes there, which is, as a minimum, it's 55.
He's getting collapsed on over here in the left. Does manage to understand that his life is in danger, so instead Morton gonna get caught out in the jungle. Calvin and Zenphius fighting off. Kami is here. Morton manages to avoid the ult for once this game, but forced into the ult of his own. Meanwhile, Calvin up in the world tree, trying to find some aggression, goes down behind Ginger Archer, a good knockback. Plus the crush jumped out of, though, by the Tiamat, not gonna matter. As Kami gets credited for the kill there, and this Scylla is starting to swing.
Yeah, absolutely. Scylla's hitting hard now, and you're quite worried about the level 15 Scylla that's 2-0. And this Pyro looks like it's going to go down without too much of a hitch either. I'm slightly worried if I'm King Kaiser, even though you're 1k gold up, right? Your lead is on your solo laner and your jungler. Like, those roles kind of useless. Backliners are just OP. If your lead's on your backlines, you're going to do more damage, right? So I'm sort of worried. I won't be looking to take too many fights, especially around this Scylla, who's already got 40% pen for some strange reason.
Lots of penetration for the Scylla, and I think that without seeing the Tiamat's build, not really going to have too much Majesty in there, even if you do go with the cooldown, so I think you're definitely right. The percent pen not helping much, at least in that lane there. But when it comes to just choosing a target, just nuking it off the face of the earth, I think the build can definitely work wonders here, especially if you can get some good setup here from the Geb. Speaking of getting nuked, Ginger Archer gets dropped low in just a couple abilities, gets his dash caught by an excellent ultimate from Kami. And level 16 now for the Scylla in the mid lane is really starting to get roaring here for Goosedra.
Yeah, really good Scylla ult there to predict the jump and then...
Morton pays a visit.
To predict the jump and then hit it off it, really well played there. Not much else
Locky is chasing down the Ace K over in the jungle, who's forced to teleport. Looks like he uses the ultimate, doesn't manage to hit it. Now the X-Ball is the one who's low. Ace K gonna have the vision. The defender of Olympus comes through, but not gonna continue the chase down onto the X-Ball instead. Purple buff might be the choice to secure or defend. Morton stopping over is really going to put some question marks on where Goosedra are headed here. But Calvin pays a visit as well. Locky has stayed. Big Joe rotates all the way over, though, teleported over to the ward, and so this Yorm is going to come up huge. If he can get the knockup, not quite able to do so, though. And instead, the Geb just going to be continuing to wall off the rest here. Meanwhile, Shinigami pushes up happily that right-hand side of the map. The rotation from Solo not resulting in too much. Still, though, threatening a pull onto this Primal Fury. So Goosedra need to be careful.
Yeah, I feel like it's a bit of a nothing rotation. I guess they've got the beacon now, but they didn't get any kills. They've not got any farm apart from the beacon. And meanwhile, Shinny's getting a tower on right. Or not.
Likely does not want to take it due to the Bastions both still being up. Big Joe forced into the ultimate in order to get out, caught in the middle of 3. Instead, he's just proxying wave. Over and right is Shinigami. Morton, though, gets wise to it, stops over to visit this Sun Wukong, and I think that he's going to have to be very careful here.
Yeah, just forcing the ult, I think. He's never going to actually kill him because Shinny can just
Great awareness. They realized the rotation from the Chinkais came over to the right-hand side of the map. Well, what's on the left? It is that Gold Fury where you have your X-Ball position, so able to steal that away. Ace K not in time to steal that objective. Zenphius forced to use the shield, just trying to get out as Big Joe continues to chase down this Geb, but Locky is starting to hit hard. So this X-Ball not something to be trifled with. Kami goes for a root. It's a blink in from Morton, but it's an even better dash through the wall. Kami aware of the threat to his life during that one. Calvin and Shinigami now diving in the mid lane. Ginger Archer, the target this time. Calvin forced out. The dots are enough to take the life of the Ratatosker. Kami misses the ultimate. A 4-man dive under the T2 does not go well for Goosedra. Jinkai's make their way out of the tower with that kill. Shinigami trying to finally chase down the kill. Onto this Tiamat will do so, as it is just Locky and Zenfius. Morton needs to be extraordinarily careful. A couple more autos and he would have fallen to the X-Ball. Shinigami rotating through, pings coming in. They see where the Arachne is, likely not going to be able to catch up though. So the kills definitely favoring the Jinkais here. Managed to steal away that gold buff. But in the meantime, Shinigami, importantly, does manage to even up levels with Big Joe. Kill onto Kami, though, is pretty big, and you get yourself a 2-level lead in the jungle.
Yeah,
Jinkai's
really nice
fighting
couple
back.
of minutes there for Kins, wasn't it? They got the kill on Kami. They got the trade in mid, 1-for-2, in a 1v2 for Ginger Archer, which was really good. I feel like, and they almost got the T1 in duo, right? It's a really good minute for Kins, and it's sort of put them back on an even par when they just started to fall behind.
And you can see it in the graphs there. Things definitely coming a lot back further in the favor of Jinkai's, but Goosedra still holding on to an albeit small lead. So contemplating what their next target is going to be. And it is important to note here, East, that Morton does have the kin size online. That's not going to be difficult. Kin size on the chin size player. Very confusing. But this Arachne has started to get those shred items up and running. But when it comes to the team fight, this Arachne might not be as useful as a lot of the other picks Gooster has at their disposal. So, now that it is solidly team fight time, we're in that mid-game phase. Do you think that Morton is really going to be able to put in the work he needs to on this Arachne?
I'm not sure. I think if anyone's going to be able to do it, it's Morton, right? It's a god he's comfortable on, and he's one of the better junglers, like getting around the
Shinigami
back,
comes
getting
through.
a flank. He's one of the better junglers at that, and sort of taking 1v1s and knowing what to do late game and taking fights with the enemy jungler in one-on-ones, things like that. He's one of the better junglers at doing that. So if anyone can do it, it's Morton.
Morton
Do I
comes
still
through.
think he's gonna be able
Big
to do it?
Cataclysm into an even larger ultimate there from Kami, and Clover goes down to Calvin in the back. Morton trying to be targeted down, but forced into the ultimate was Big Joe. So the target instead changes to Ginger Archer. In the meantime, Ace K has been pushing up that left-hand side of the map. Not going to end up going for the Phoenix, though. And Goosedra running back. Are they going to start pulling this Fire Giant? It looks like they might. Have to be very, very careful, though. 3 members of Jinkai still up, one of them being this level 18 Arachne.
It's not the easiest to take, right? You can secure it, sure, but you definitely lose the fight. If they can get here in time a little bit quicker, Big Joe just needs to go in. If they can, yeah, get on the
Clover
Scylla,
comes in as well. Morton goes down onto Kami, and Kami is going to fall. The Tiger's stun gets blocked. Fire Giant, though, does go the way of Goosedra, so now just trying to get out. Calvin with a beautiful double stun off of the Acorns. Shinigami on the retreat. The Sun Wukong forced to burn the ultimate. Great peel using the 2 from this Geb sitting up in the ult. Is Shinigami, he goes back in, wants to try and poke out this Yorm. Locky is here, but Morton lurking in the wings here, tries to go in, but these autos, Locky putting out a lot of damage. Huge, though. Rotation from Calvin, gets behind, gets the kill onto Clover, up into the ultimate now. Deciding on who the next target is going to be. The knock-up hits onto Ace from both the support and the jungler. Calvin finishes off the kill onto the Heim, and now Morton on the Arachne running as fast as she can. A good web does block the dash of Shinigami, and that is enough to save the life of the Arachne. Morton almost losing his life here. Shinigami comes dangerously close to finishing that off. Ginger Archer with some well-timed abilities. But Goosedra fighting back. They get the Fire Giant, and they win the fight off the back end, albeit a little delayed.
Yeah, classic overstay, wasn't it, from Kins? They did well to get a kill off it. It's delaying time, right? But they just stayed way too long. Kami was like, I mean, Kami's up now. Like, Kami's up in mid lane now. That's how long they overstayed. They just need to get out, regroup, and they could have got that gold themselves, right? They're just, I don't know, their shot calling's not on point. I don't think this game. They're not quite doing what they should be.
It's very different from what we saw last game because they seemed a lot more composed, a lot more poised. In the previous game, a lot of the losses that they had were just the wrong person getting picked at the start of a team fight, but we never really saw mistakes like this where they chase too far and overstay. Something more akin to what we saw Goosedra doing in that game 1. And so, already being down 0-1, Shinkai's find themselves at even further of a deficit. And this Arachne has just not managed to be that powerhouse, that carry that Morten and the rest of the team likely hoped and thought it was going to be.
No, but I'm not entirely sure it's the issue. I think the issue is the same thing again, right? You get the Athena taunts and there's just not enough follow-up damage, whether that's because the Athena's too far forward or whether the carries are too far back. They're just not synced up as a team. I think it's the same problem, right? The only reason you're picking Athena, apart from the mid-game rotations, the only reason you're picking Athena is for that taunt. And if the taunt's useless, the god's useless. And that's the issue they're having.
E2 tower in right, going to look to be toppled. Clover tries to get a taunt, instead going to be answered back only with damage. Morten pushing down that mid T2, but Goosedra, they have to know that this is happening, and they have to go for this Phoenix. Instead, up into the World Serpent goes Big Joe. Big damage coming through, though, from Goosedra. Calvin dropped low, but the Phoenix dropped dead, and now the retreat is on someone having to back to defend that mid Phoenix. Morten realizing he does not have enough time to secure that bird due to the backs of Goosedra. Instead going to back off. They get that T2, and they buy even more time, forcing that Titan over into the right lane. So Goosedra has time to regroup, likely going to try and push down this mid T2, as well as the T2 in left.
Yeah, I like that trade there, honestly. You're gonna lose that Phoenix anyway. The Titan's coming down, it's gonna absolutely slam it. Oh.
Morten gets caught out. I don't think this Arachne is able to make it out of here. No, sir. Locky locks that one away. So we are without Arachne for 50 seconds. I can't help but feel like Goosedra see this as an opportunity to push down these towers. Fire Giant is coming up soon, and Morten will be around when that does spawn back up. So Goosedra need to pull an advantage as much as they can. No Fire Giant around their waists anymore. So having a 5v4, should Shinkai's choose to try and take a fight here, would be beneficial, but instead going to realize that they really don't stand to gain much from pushing up. Instead, just going to let the rest of Goosedra back. I take that back. Clover just going to go in and annoy people and not let them back. But now they will back and reset for this Fire Giant coming up in 20 seconds.
Yeah, it looks bad, right? Morten dying there and getting picked, but all you've lost is a T2 tower that's probably going to go down anyways, so I don't mind it. The bigger impact is the impact on relics that it has. Morten's going to have no beads. That means Gebel, Cyril dead. But then on the other side, you've got Locky no Aegis, which means if Locky can, if Morten can sort of...
Oh, Geb gets caught out on his own, pushed up way too far, but the rest of the team is here, and the damage from Locky off of the ultimate is huge. Kami now chasing down the rest of the Shinkai's team in the ultimate. Big damage comes through onto the Yorm. And you thought you had a pick onto the Geb, but this pick so hard to seal out. And that combined with the ultimate and the long-ranged autos coming from the Darkest of Night. Goosedra managed to find a pick, albeit onto the support. They pull the Fire Giant, which is down to a third of its HP. Shinkai's trying to come in time to steal this one away, but the spacing is just too much. Goosedra secure this Fire Giant, and now they chase things down the right-hand side of the map. The Athena not up yet. Morten looking for a flank, but he's so far away from the rest of his team. Ginger Archer dropped low. Shinigami chasing him down. The Bluestone Tick's going to get the kill over there. And Big Joe gets killed as well. Shinigami on a double kill. 3-kill spree for this Sun Wukong. The mid T2, the only two left standing on the map. But not for long as Goosedra show up. Okay, I was about to say, if they ran under that Phoenix, they're trolling. As Goosedra do manage to take the tier 2 out of the mid lane here and look to end this Phoenix's life. It's burning relatively fast. A good dash into the backline onto Ace K, gets the Heimdall low, and Goosedra, they know that this is their time to go in. They get the kill onto Ace K, and the Titan might be soon to follow. Goosedra weighing their options. They're clearing the waves. They're not going for the end. Morton gonna come in to the mid lane here, steal this Phoenix away. They get the Phoenix in right. Multiple members channeling their backs. Goosedra contemplating what they want to do here, twiddling their thumbs maybe a bit. And they stay, and while they stay, 4 members now are up for Chinkai, so whatever opportunity they had is now long gone. Phoenixes, even in the mid lane, they do have the advantage in that right lane over there. Left Phoenixes still perfectly healthy and untouched. So not too much going to be affecting this Fire Giant fight. That left lane definitely the most annoying one to have to deal with.
Don't mind that trade though, right? The other team's got FG and you've traded one Phoenix for 2 and one of the Phoenixes was low anyways. Like it's not bad, right? All you just have to do now is try and stall this FG. Make sure the other team don't push, and I feel like you're just fine, right? You play for the next FG. Because at this point, pretty much everyone's 6 slotted in terms of items anyways.
Still FG around the waist of 5, so wouldn't be surprised to see another push in the minute and a half left of this Fire Giant that Gooster still have. Lucky, incredibly brave there, stares down Arachne and Athena and says, well, you guys probably think my team is here, so just continues to walk up. Meanwhile, his team is all the way over on the Primal Fury. And that's the kind of thing where in the previous game we saw Locky get picked off on the Her for.
Yeah, not so much this game. I guess X-File's a little bit safer, right? You've got the CC immune dash, you've got the ult for movement speed, but...
Left Phoenix.
Flank from Arachne.
Oh, you're right, but no, he gets spotted out. This Arachne needs to be careful, has to burn the beads and the ultimate, and that is devastating. That is basically all of what Arachne has to get started in the backline, just completely gone before the fight even starts.
Yeah, so, it's not looking good, is it?
Morton realizing that I guess he just wants to push down this mid wave, contented to lose the Phoenix, possibly. As Chinkai is just desperately trying to defend this left bird. Into the ultimate goes Big Joe.
He can end if he has a wave
damage through. You're right, this Arachne's pushing in. Trying to end on the Titan instead. Goosedra pushing in on this left-hand lane. They know that they need to end faster. It might just be a base race. No one is going to be able to back here, so Goosedra need to finish off this Titan faster than the Arachne can do so. And it's dropping. Arachne now forced to solo the Titan. There are no fire rays pushing in because the Phoenixes were even in the mid lane, and the gamble will not pay off for the Chinkais as Goosedra take this set 2-0 over the second seed.
Wow. Base race, didn't think it would come down that close. I don't hate it. You've got to make the play right and hold that your team can survive long enough. You've got to make the play, especially once you've got your beat and ult down. You're going to be pretty much useless in the fight anyways. You just go for it. But it doesn't look like it paid off in this case. Unfortunate.
Not quite paying off with the base race, and honestly, the Arachne not quite paying off that much either. Really a pick that Morton has a lot of history on, and a pick that, when in the right circumstances, can just absolutely run a lobby. But it seems like this game was just not that game. The rest of the members here of Goosedra were just able to address this Arachne every time it dived in, find it. They had good vision. They had some good CC to lock it down, and just that safety. that the team offered was really able to put the kibosh on what Morton was trying to do. But I do think a lot of credit here has to go to Xenphius on this Geb.
Yeah, I agree. It was a great game by Xamphius. Honestly, I think it was just a great game by a lot of Gooster in total, right? They stuck together more as a team, a lot more than King Kai's did. When Ginger and Ace K were getting dived, and when Clover was getting dived, and things like that, they were kind of splitting off, right? When they were running away, like Ginger jumps one way, Ace K teleports another way, and so on. And then all of a sudden, there's a rat dunk, and it's UV rat. You've probably lost the relic already, and all of a sudden, you're just dead, aren't you? Whereas if you look at the other side, you've got Cammy and you've got Lockie, you've got Xemphius. And I feel like there was always someone there to help. Whenever Morton was diving or whenever Joe was diving, there was someone there to help Lockie or Cammy out, right? There was someone there to peel, someone there to put some CC in place. I just didn't see the same from King Kai's.
And so Goosedra, off of some very good team playing, some good adaptation and improvement after that very close game one, are able to take game two quite convincing fashion and move themselves on to the next round of playoffs. Going to be showing up in losers round 3. But they're the ones who are going to be playing in the future. As for us, that is going to be all here on the cast. Once again, just to reiterate before we leave, I have been Cabbage, joined here by East on the cast and the wonderful Captain on production. We'll have some more matches coming to you tomorrow and throughout the rest of the weekend. So smite on and everyone have a good day.